Hello, and welcome to Impact Now, how principals can use video-enhanced coaching to grow teachers and raise student achievement. We're going to just wait a moment to make sure that everyone can hear us and see us. If you'll let us know in the chat that everything is going okay, that would be great. Today is part 4 of a 9-part webinar series, and the title of today's webinar is Coaching Cycle 2, From Filming to Feedback. The sponsor for today's webinar is SIBME and the Principal Center. All right, so we're starting to get some information in the chat. Folks are able to see us and hear us. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give you just another minute to get logged in and settle down. Let us know you can hear us and see us in the chat if you would. I also want to take this time to call your attention to the fact that October is a special month for lots of the folks who are joining us today. It is National Principals Month. I'm sure you already knew that. And so I just want to take a moment to say a special thank you to those of you who are building principals and building leaders. It's a celebration of the effort and the work that you do, especially the work that you do that impacts the lives of students and certainly impacts the lives of the stakeholders in your building. So we want to take some time this month to thank our principals during National Principals Month. Just taking another minute to let some folks join us. Again, today is part 4 of a 9-part webinar series, Coaching Cycle 2, From Filming to Feedback, sponsored by SIBME and the Principal Center. TJ. Can't get the slide to advance. Oops. I lost the chat though. Very good. All right, thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started here. Let us know in the chat if you were able to join us for webinars 1, 2, or 3 in this series. Those were foundational webinars where we learned a lot of things, and Dr. Gorey is actually going to review some of the objectives from those webinars in just a moment. We really encourage you to go back and visit those links if you haven't seen webinars 1, 2, or 3 yet. Those are really important foundational webinars, and we encourage you to take a moment to go back and review those. Working with us today in the chat is TJ Hoffman, and he's going to be typing some of that information in the chat for you so that you'll have that webinar information, those links right there for you. So the big picture for the 9-part webinar series, today is the 4th of the 9-part webinar series. And we're sponsoring these webinars, and they are intended for principals and school leaders who want to implement video during the 2017-2018 school year using the SIBME platform. Each webinar is intended to show instructional leaders how to complete the work that they'll need to attend to in the month that follows the webinar. So if you're a pro member of the Principal Center and you do not yet have access to SIBME, we really encourage you to sign up for a 30-day free trial so you can take full advantage of the information that we're providing in the webinar. Ultimately, Dr. Gorey will share the process that she uses to ensure that every teacher in her building is coached during the school year with a minimum of 3 coaching cycles. Coaching cycle 1 is teacher self-reflection. Coaching cycle 2 is the teacher self-selected goal. And coaching cycle 3 is the goal that's selected by the coach. My name is Allison Burnett, and I am today's SIBME webinar facilitator. I'm the Director of Professional Learning and Virtual Coaching for SIBME. I have over 30 years of experience in education, and in addition to working full-time with SIBME, I'm an adjunct professor at a local university where I work with students who are on the pathway to becoming teachers. Our featured presenter today and during all of our webinars in the 9-part webinar series is Dr. Tanya Goree. She is Sci-Fair's 2015-2016 Elementary Principal of the Year. She has over 26 years in education and educational leadership. Dr. Goree, I'm going to ask you to say a little bit more about yourself in terms of building some background.
Sure. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our 4th webinar. Very excited that we have a consistent group of people following along, because this process using video enhanced coaching definitely can impact the instructional practices on your campus. I have more than 26 years of experience, 15 as an administrator. This is actually my 8th year as a building principal. I've used video enhanced coaching on both of the campuses where I was the building leader, and I have had great results in both of those cases. We used the flip camera for a few years before we were introduced to the SIBME platform, and once we were introduced to this platform, it absolutely transformed the way we used video enhanced coaching. We won't do video coaching without SIBME. I've been quoted as saying that because the platform definitely provides a lot of benefits that the flip camera doesn't provide. So welcome to webinar 4.
Thank you, Dr. Goree. So let's do a quick review of the objectives from the first 3 webinars, Dr. Goree. So even if folks were with us for all 3, it's a great opportunity to go back and review just really the most essential things that we talked about. So would you take us through the objectives of those 3 webinars?
Well, webinar 1, setting the stage for success, we talked about assessing and building your school culture. That's determining your why. Why do you need to use video enhanced coaching? Building the capacity of your leadership team, calibrating to ensure everyone is on the same page. You have to be coaching for the same purpose. Preparing your infomercial. That's your one shot to get it right. Remember, you get that one opportunity. You got that one opportunity to get the buy-in from your staff. In webinar 2, we talked about the importance of coaching with video. Video provides fact-based coaching. It's where perception meets reality. We also talked about the goals and structure of coaching cycle 1. That's a pre-video conference and what happens during that process. How the SIBME platform powers schools coaching cycle. The ease of use of the platform, as I mentioned in my introduction, is definitely something that's beneficial to schools when you're using video coaching. In webinar 3, we moved on to talk about the bridge between self-reflection and teacher-selected goals. The first bullet, how leaders inspect what they expect. That's using the SIBME analytics. What's not monitored becomes optional. So if you want the teachers to do that self-reflection video, you can monitor it using this SIBME analytics. You can also monitor video uploads and comments in general, and there are lots of other things that the analytics allows leaders to observe. We talked about the gist of the pre-video conference between, when it's between the teacher and the coach. That's an opportunity to calm fears, to answer any questions, and to reassure teachers of the process. And finally, how the SIBME platforms helps to power the school's coaching cycle. Once again, everything you need to effectively use video enhanced coaching can be found in that SIBME platform.
Thanks for that review, Dr. Goree. And just hearing the steps of those processes again is so helpful to us as we get ready to launch into webinar 4. But before we actually get to the objectives of webinar 4, there is one piece of information we want to share, and that is, and we talked about this last webinar, we do want to share some official data for your campus for the for the 16-17 school year. And I have to tell you that your data precedes you. And so when we see the standing room only folks at conferences where you're the speaker, it's because folks are familiar with the fact that you have some pretty impressive success data.
Yes.
And having been in education for so long myself, I have to tell you that we are hungry for learning from folks who are having success. Especially when that success is related to student achievement. So I'm going to share some official data, and I'm going to ask you to talk us through that data screen in terms of your growth.
So the blue bar is the growth that we experienced in the 2015-2016 school year. That was my first year joining the staff here at Franklin. We had a lot of work to do, and using video enhanced coaching as one of our expectations. It's not something that we added. It is an expectation, just like guided reading is an expectation and small group instruction is an expectation. We had significant gains in 2015, 2016. Math grew 23%, reading grew 15%, and you can see across the graph here the growth that we sustained in writing and science. In 2016, 2017, we're very excited about the continuous growth that we experienced last year. Everyone in the state of Texas knows that the state assessment, the rigor of the state assessment increased tremendously. And because of this increase, our Associate Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, when interviewed by a local reporter, she stated, we will use the 2016-2017 data as our baseline for future assessments. However, despite the increase in rigor, we still had growth in all content areas at Franklin, and we are very, very pleased with that. We grew an additional 9% in math, an additional 9% in math, an additional 5% in both reading and writing, and an additional 10% in science. I definitely contribute that growth largely in part to our video enhanced coaching process, our self-reflection process, and our 2 additional cycles with a coach.
Very nice, Dr. Corey. So we're going to have some opportunities for folks to ask questions in the chat along the way, and I'm going to suspect that slide might power some of those questions that folks might have. So let's go ahead and get started with the objectives for webinar 4, and they are, we're going to learn what the coach needs to consider in preparation for filming. We're going to learn the video feedback features that are available to coaches when using SIBME. We're going to learn the gist of the post-video conference between teacher and coach, and that's really a powerful part of today's webinar. And we're going to see how the SIBME platform powers the coaching cycle as it relates to the components that we're going to discuss today. So Dr. Gorey, let's take a look at objective 1, what the coach needs to consider in preparation for filming. Let's go back and reflect for just a moment about some things we discussed in webinar 3, which really was about the pre-video conference and about what happened during that meeting in terms of setting goals, deciding how those goals would be measured, and discussing when the video would actually take place. So the summary that I just gave us prepares us pretty well for our discussion of objective 1 today. So if you would, let's talk about what the coach needs to do in preparation for going into the classroom and filming.
In preparation for going into the classroom, the coach should have visited the classroom multiple times throughout the course of the school year prior to going in to film. Our coaches are instructional specialists and administrators, and we visit classrooms frequently. And those visits help with the coach knowing what transitions look like in the classroom, so that when you go into film, you don't cause any disruption to the flow of the lesson. It's an opportunity for the coach to determine, where will I set up the video when I go into the classroom to capture the goal that the teacher has set? Is the goal to improve small group instruction and improve the level of questions when I'm in small group? So you have to know where you're going to set up the camera or the iOS or Android device to capture the video. So that's another thing that the coach should do in preparation of going into the classroom. If you go in like we do, we go in so frequently, or our kids are so accustomed to seeing recording devices that they're kind of desensitized, so they don't wave at the camera or turn to say hello. It's just a normal part of what we do here. So those are things that are important for the coach to do, because you don't want there to be any disruption in what normally takes place in that classroom when you come in to capture video.
Really good advice there for objective 1. And let's just roll right into objective 2, the video feedback features available to coaches in the SIDME platform. So after the preparations for filming and the actual filming takes place, I know that there's a time limit during which the coach needs to provide feedback to the teacher. And so what are some of those features that, SIDME features that are most valuable for the coach to use as they're providing that feedback?
We give feedback within 48 hours. I'm sorry. We give feedback. Oh my gosh, if my coaching team is listening to this, they probably would die. We give feedback within 48 hours of recording, because after a certain amount of time, it becomes invalid. Teachers are eager to hear that feedback. Even though it's video recorded, they're eager to get that feedback. That's the relationship that we've established here on campus. So within 48 hours of recording, feedback is provided using the timestamp feedback feature in SIDME, one of the features that I love the most. It's an evidence-based conversation that occurs via the SIDME platform. The coach E, the teacher, is expected to respond also using that same platform. So by the time we get to the post-video conference, we've read the teacher's comments, the teachers have read our comments, and we know exactly where each other stands, and it kind of calms fears as well. You know what to expect. There are also custom marker tags, which are included in that area where you provide the feedback. The custom marker tags that we use are the standard ones from SIDME: bright spot, question, or idea. Leaders can have up to 4. We use the 3, and you can customize those tags to be whatever you choose. They help provide a context to the comment. They're searchable. The teacher can click on the custom marker tag, and it'll pull up all the questions, all the bright spots, all the ideas, and they can be tracked in the SIDME analytics. So another way that the analytics comes into play, where you can monitor what's taking place on the platform.
Yeah, very good. So over a course of time, it might be interesting to look at the analytics as it relates to the custom marker tags. And I'm going to guess that we would celebrate if we saw an increase in those bright spots over time, because we're seeing those comments more frequently being made in terms of the bright spots of instruction.
We also have the opportunity through this platform to use a custom framework. So if there are leaders who want to use the SIDME platform to monitor their campus initiatives. So instead, in addition to the video coaching process, you can also use it to monitor your campus initiatives. They can use a framework. They can embed a custom framework in this platform. And Allison, can you share with our audience today more details about that, embedding that custom framework?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Gorey. Yes, so we can embed multiple frameworks within your account. And a framework is just a set of standards, or it could be a rubric, it could be anything that really holds your coaching philosophy together, and anything that you would want to track data around. And here is, in this example, I'm showing you the T-TEST framework, which are the Texas teaching standards. This is non-evaluative. This is just a way of tracking the frequency of those tag standards within the platform. So a way of tracking, let's just say, perhaps growth around those particular standards. So again, it's just another way of providing feedback. We can type our feedback in the text box. We can certainly attach a custom marker tag in association with our feedback, so that the person receiving our feedbacks knows whether we're asking a question or providing an idea or applauding them for a bright spot. But we can also drop that framework down, and we can tag the standards of that framework in association with our feedback. So my framework is given in association with a particular standard, and that can be helpful to folks as they see our feedback and our comments. And again, if we embed a framework within our account, we can start to track the data that we produce from that framework in our analytics. And again, that helps us to make oftentimes some program-wide decisions as we track that data over a course of time. And that data can be tracked in terms of aggregate data across a program, or we can actually drill down into individual teachers.
That's
So
great.
let's jump into objective 3. And objective 3 is the gist of the post-video conference between the teacher and the coach. So we've gone through looking at the pre-video conference where we're setting up our goal. We're thinking about how we're going to measure the goal. We're deciding on when we're going to film. The filming actually takes place. There is a feedback exchange via the platform, and now we're getting ready to talk about objective 3, the post-video conferencing. So in the post-video conferencing, then the teacher and the coach are meeting to see how things went in relation to that goal. I know that you've mentioned after filming there's 48 hours to provide feedback to that goal. And of course, then there's a certain time period during which that conversation is going to take place. So talk to us more about the things that happen in that post-video conference.
The post-video conference takes place within 1 week of filming. 48 hours for feedback, and then within 1 week, there's a post-video conference. The conference serves as a way to refer back to, summarize, and extend the feedback given in the CIMI platform. The teacher may request another visit if they reviewed their comments and they felt that, hey, I would like you to come back in. I want to redo some things. I want to put some of these suggestions into practice, and I'd like you to come back in. Or I'd like to send you a video. They can also do that. If the goal is not met, sometimes the teacher requests additional visits, even if the goal is met. They saw some things in the comments, they thought, I'm going to work on that. But if the goal is not met, the coach will plan more visits. This is what we call heavy coaching. This is our definition of heavy coaching, which includes an increased number of video enhanced coaching cycles. During this time, the teacher may capture video of a particular component of a lesson, add it to the huddle, provide some feedback, and then the coach will do the same. Or the coach may go in with a device and capture video. It's either way, but the coachee definitely has the ability to film instruction and share it with the coach in the huddle at that time.
So a couple of things to say about that then. If the coach is actually if the teacher is actually able to film and submit that video to the coach, there's really 2 features I want to just mention briefly that would be of value to that teacher. And one is the fact that we have a timer function in the SIBME app. So a teacher can actually set a timer for the length of time they want the video to record. So if I know that I just want to record the first 10 minutes of the classroom, then I set the timer for 10 and the video will automatically stop. So the timer feature is something that would be important for teachers to know they can access if they're doing the filming and submitting the video. And the second feature that would be important for them to know about is the editing feature. So once the video is filmed, they can edit either in their workspace before they share the video, or they can edit in the huddle once the video is shared. But the editing feature allows us to really trim that video so that perhaps we've filmed a 60-minute block of instruction, but our coach really only needs to see a specific thing that we're looking for that's related to our goal. So they can trim that video down and save the coach some time and really help them to focus on the exact part of instruction that they need to in terms of the goal that they've identified. So I just wanted to mention those two features for if teachers are doing the filming and submitting them to their coaches. So we're going to have one polling question today. We'd like 100% of those who are with us today to participate in our polling question. We're going to post that question, and Dr. Goree, I'm going to just ask you to think aloud with us as you look at the different choices here. The question, the most powerful reason for using video as a coaching tool is that video. Would you just think aloud as you talk about those choices, and don't give anything away now if you do have your favorite.
Well, the first statement allows teachers to be self-reflective. Well, I believe that self-reflection is one of the greatest forms of professional growth. B, provides objective evidence. Feedback is best received when it's rooted in evidence, when it's rooted in facts. C, enables teachers' growth and progress to be tracked. Video definitely allows you to monitor growth over time, and it's also a way to encourage continuous growth because teachers can go back and watch those videos and self-reflect at any time and see how they've improved on their goal or the feedback from their coach they've implemented that feedback that the coach has given. And then D, eliminate some of the reasons for that teachers become defensive. Again, videos are rooted in facts. There's no reason to be defensive when it's evidence-based and it's factual. So That's my take on those statements.
All right, thanks for thinking aloud with us through those. And we're going to post the poll results in about 5 seconds here, and then I'm going to ask you to be reflective about what you see. If I had to ask you to guess which of these items you think will probably be the most popular response, do you want to take a guess?
I'm going to say A, because that would be, I believe in self-reflection, so okay. I'm going to say A.
All right, let's go ahead and post those results and see what we have.
And I was correct.
All right, no surprise there. So I guess I'm just going to have to ask you to talk about it. Why do you think folks chose that?
Self-reflection. If you can see it, you can definitely fix it. It's video does not lie. Teachers seeing themselves and seeing what they actually thought happened, but they're seeing the reality of what happened. It helps them to make the changes. It's not rooted in a recollection of facts that I've written down or jotted down on a notepad. It's actually video that captured what took place. So I agree.
All right, thank you. And thank you all for participating in our polling question today. All right, so we're headed to objective 4, how the CIDME platform powers coaching cycle 2. And I'm going to go ahead and take the reins here for a brief time, Dr. Gorey, as we talk about the platform in relation to the information we shared in this particular webinar. So let's talk about this from the perspective of the coach for a moment, and some things that the coach is going to find value in terms of the CIDME platform. One of my favorite features as a coach is the coaching tracker. So from my dashboard view, I'm able to enter into my coaching tracker. And I want us to think of a coaching tracker as sort of a to-do list or a queue of videos that are waiting for my action as the coach. It's kind of hard, especially in situations like yours, Dr. Gorey, where you have folks who are coaching 7 or 8 or 9 people. Are those the right numbers?
Correct.
And then we have coachees submitting videos. We have the coaches going in and filming videos. So we could have a coach who ends up with quite a number of videos in their queue. And so to keep track of that, CIDME has created the feature of the coaching tracker. So I just access the coaching tracker from my dashboard view, and I'm taken into that coaching tracker view. And what you're looking at here is a sample coaching tracker. So you can see I'm the coach in this coaching tracker, and I'm working with these 3 coachees. And so the thing that's important to notice here is there's these boxes. This is my queue. This is my to-do list in terms of viewing videos. Each of those boxes has a date associated with it. That date populates by the time the video is entered into my coaching huddle. So every time a video is entered into my coaching huddle, it's going to populate on my coaching tracker with a date. So we see here that I have no videos yet with my coachee, Michael Kahn, and no videos with Rosario, but I have 4 videos with my coachee, Debbie Adams. So each of these boxes represents a video that's in my queue waiting for some action to be taken. And when it first populates, it's just going to populate as just a black and white box, but over time, it's going to become color-coded. Mm-hmm. So Dr. Gorey has told us that she has the expectation that feedback is given within 48 hours of the filming of the video. So in her scenario then, if feedback is not given during that first 48 hours after the video is posted, we're going to see a couple of things happen. We're going to see the color coding change from no feedback to late feedback. So the color coding is there again for me as the coach, just to say, oh my goodness, I forgot to give feedback to this particular video, or unfortunately I gave late feedback. 48 hours is a pretty tight time limit, but I've given late feedback. It's just, again, there for me as a reminder to track my actions within my coaching huddles. And then the blue portion of this is letting me know that my coachee either submitted their video with a comment on it, or they've replied to some comment that I've made in my feedback. Either way, I know that my coachee has participated in this huddle in some way, shape, or form, and that's important for me to note. So one of the other things I like about the coaching tracker is that from the coaching tracker, I can click on this box, which will take me directly to that video and associated with that date and time. And that's where I can begin to give my feedback. So I don't have to search around for where's the video or where's that huddle. I just go in through my coaching tracker. It saves me a ton of time. It's already there for me, ready to be viewed. And whenever I go in there, I have the ability to view that video and provide my feedback. So in just a second, I'm going to get to some questions we have populating in our chat, which are great questions. Just hang on for one more second. And so I have what's called the coaching summary. This is for me, the coach. My coachee doesn't see this, but it's important for me, I think, with each video session to be able to look when I finish giving my feedback, look from the outside in to say, I gave 8 comments to my coachee responded or added 8 comments to the video as well. So you can see there's lots of participation there. Did I attach any resources in association with this particular video in the huddle? And then one of my favorite features is a session summary. So for me, I like to keep track of what we've been working on together, coach and coachee. I also like to make notes of my next steps. So what's the next thing that we're going to work on? In addition to that, in my coaching summary, I'm going to see some data populate if I've embedded a framework. And so of my 8 comments, 2 of those comments were in association with one of the standards, which was the classroom environment standard. 2 of my comments were in association with communication. So I'm beginning to see data populate in association with this particular video session, and that's important for me to keep track of as well. So the coaching tracker and the coaching summary are 2 features that I know our coaches are going to like. And we have shown you a little bit of our analytics package before. Today I'm going to just show you a couple of features that are relevant to the conversation we're having today with Dr. Gorey in webinar 4. And that is that I can begin to track that data, and this could be aggregate data. This could be across the entire program. So if I have 10 coaches who are contributing to that data, that's what I'm looking at here. I'm looking at the aggregate data of all 10 coaches, and I can sort that out, and I can filter it out, and I can export that data as well. Here we're looking at just the 5 most frequently tagged standards. So there might be 10 standards in the rubric or framework you're using, but here we're just pulling it out and looking at the 5 most frequently tagged standards. And here we're looking at the most frequently tagged standard as an association with those custom marker tags we talked about. And as we've mentioned earlier, I think I would be delighted as a leader to see growth over time in my bright spots, because that means I'm seeing more and more things that I'm complimenting my teachers about and that are impressing me about what they're doing. Now, next time we're going to talk about how we can drill down in this data. So I can not just only look at this pie chart of the 5 most frequently tagged standards, but I can look at each individual standard, and I can also drill down to look at each individual's teacher within my platform as well. But those are things we'll attend to in our next webinar. So we have some questions in the chat that I'd like for us to deal with. And as we're looking at the questions that have populated, we have one more question we'd like everybody to respond to. If you have any questions about the content so far today in Coaching Cycle 2, from filming to feedback, if you'd post those in the chat. And then Dr. Gorey, I'm going to share with you those questions as they're posted. So one question we have is, do coaches have access to the coaching tracker? And then she said she meant the coachees. So the answer, I'll take that unless you'd like to, Dr. Gorey.
You can take it.
All right, thank you. So the coaches have the access to the tracker and to the coaching summary. The coachees will not have access to that. So they won't have the coaching tracker on the dashboard, and they won't have access to get into the coaching tracker or to see the coaching summary. What other questions do we have about today's content from Coaching Cycle 2? And Clarissa, you're welcome for that answer. Do we have any other questions in association with the information we've shared in Coaching Cycle 2? Dr. Gorey, I don't know if we should take that as a compliment or a sign of concern. If there are no questions, were we just that clear, or was it, I'm not sure.
I'm taking it as a compliment. We've been together for 4 webinars. This is the 4th webinar that we've conducted. So I'm assuming it's a compliment and everyone's on board. They're doing their homework and they're following along with us.
All right, thank you for that. That makes me feel very encouraged. So we're going to move on, and if you do, of course, we are taking questions in the chat. We do have, could you talk about the coaches, about coaching versus evaluating? Could you talk about coaches versus evaluation? Again, Dr. Gorey, a really important point here. Talk about how you view that.
As I've stated in our previous webinars and in all of my presentations, the relationship between the coach and the coachee, the coach and the teacher, who's the coachee, is very important in order for the teacher to grow. To receive the feedback, you have to have a relationship. In order to take the feedback, even though there's video and there's truth in the video, the relationship still matters. So no one who evaluates a teacher, we don't coach and evaluate the same person. So for my 3 administrators and myself, who are the evaluators, the appraisers on our campus, we don't cross the line between evaluation and coaching. We tell the teachers that, and we stick to that. We send out our coaching list and we send out our evaluation list so the teachers can verify that they're not being coached by their evaluator and no one else on the campus is as well. We keep those lines very separate so that the relationship can be built between the coach and the coachee. And also, as an appraiser, I don't go to a coach to find out about someone who's on my appraisal list. I let that relationship stay between the coach and the coachee. I don't infringe on that relationship because if the coach is doing a great job, by the time we get to evaluation, everything's good. The coach has helped the teacher work on those goals. They've set additional goals if necessary. They've continued to coach heavy if necessary. So there's no reason to cross the line between coach and evaluator.
Thank you, Dr. Gorey. We have another question. I'm going to lean over here to read it from a different screen. So do you use personal devices or devices provided by the district or the school? And what kind of devices do you use? Phones, tablets, etc.?
We prefer iPads, so we use iPads, but teachers use their phone. It's any iOS or Android device can be used to capture video in the SIGME platform. So we use iPad minis, and the volume is great. The sound quality is great. We can capture the entire classroom, or we can capture a small moment using the iPad mini.
Very good. I think that one of the philosophies of SIGME is that bring your own device. Just make it as simple as we can. Although SIGME does work with any commercially sold device, using the device that we carry in our pocket, our smartphone, or our iPads that we're carrying with us constantly just makes that an easier process. So we have another question here. Do you video coach all of the teachers, or are there certain just certain teachers based on a continuum?
Every single teacher on this campus has a coach. Everyone who sees children, everyone who impacts children has a coach. It's not just for teachers in need. It helps those teachers, master teachers. It helps you get better. It helps you not become complacent. It helps you keep moving forward in your profession. For the teacher who is, just rock solid, it helps them improve and get to that next level also. And of course, for the struggling teacher, it's obvious why coaching is good for them, but we use it for every single person. Everyone has room to grow. Everyone has room to improve. And all of my coaches, myself included, we videotape ourselves in staff meetings and planning whenever we do presentations, and we invite the teachers to provide feedback to us. So it's a continuous cycle.
That's great. I heard that the leaders go first, and so that's great that y'all are modeling that. And I just have to say that I think in my 19th year of teaching, when I thought I was, pretty good, I learned a lot in my 19th year, and I think that I grew exponentially after that. So hopefully we always have that continuous growth mindset, that we're always open to growth. And when we don't use coaching as a deficit model, when we approach it from that idea of everybody can get better at our practice, then I think we have a really positive relationship with that notion of coaching.
Absolutely.
So we're going to continue watching the chat, seeing if anybody else wants to participate as we move forward to talk a little bit about webinar 5. We do have some of our goals for that webinar listed there. So in webinar 5, which is going to be November the 30th, so we'll see you at the end of November. Hopefully you'll all come back and join us and continue learning from Dr. Gorey. So one of our goals will be to understand more about heavy coaching. There's more to learn there's more to learn there, and also to learn about what Dr. Gorey has identified as SIBME's biggest time-saving feature. It's our feature called Synced Notes, and she's going to talk to us about how they're using it, and then we're going to begin working our way toward introducing the elements of coaching cycle 3. So we've taken a couple of these webinars looking at what's happening within coaching cycle 2, a really important cycle as we move into that from self-reflection into the teachers identifying goals that they want to work on. So we spent quite a bit of time there, and we're going to end that with the notion, a little bit more detail about heavy coaching before we get into cycle 3. Dr. Gorey, do you want to add anything to how I've described those objectives?
You've done a beautiful job.
All right. So if you would talk to our folks about their homework assignments for this webinar.
So the homework, of course, is intended to help you prepare for the upcoming webinar or reflect back on what we discussed in the previous webinars. So we want to talk about which video feedback feature should all coaches use? Which feature is important for all coaches to use? What will be the non-negotiables for the post-video conference? We have a pre-conference, we go in and videotape, and then we have that post-conference. So what's a non-negotiable for that post-video conference? And then when a teacher doesn't meet their goal, you should have a script of a consistent message that all coaches can use, because when a teacher doesn't meet their goal, you don't want them to be defeated. You don't want them to shut down and think, oh, all hope is lost, because it's not. So what will you say? What will be stated to the teachers who don't meet their goal or achieve their goal in the manner that is intended?
Very nice. And I think having that script and having thought through that a bit is going to make the coaches more at ease. It's challenging to have that conversation, I'm sure, to say, although we've worked hard on our goal and we've made some improvement, we still have some room for growth. So having that script in mind, I'm sure, helps to get through that conversation. So let's finish up with a chat and a few more slides. What most resonated with you, if you'll respond to this in the chat, what most resonated with you regarding the content of today's webinar, from filming to feedback? So what really is staying with you? What seems most relevant or important to you? If you'd let us know in the chat so we know what we're doing that is making the most difference for you. We're going to give you about a minute to let us know that. Your responses do matter to us. We do care what you have to say about that. It does guide us as we begin preparing for the next webinar. We do want you to be engaged and find the content to be important. So just a few things here in the coaching tracker. So the coaching tracker information was what was most beneficial to Cheryl. Thank you, Cheryl, for sharing that. Deanna is saying the opportunity to guide teachers in using the self-reflective tool. And Dr. Gorey has really talked a lot about the strength of the self-reflection part of her cycle. Another comment, coaches should visit the classroom multiple times prior to the videotaping. Yeah. And these are all just such good practices. Another response, the timeliness of feedback and coaching for all teachers. Dr. Gorey said it really well. If we don't get feedback to folks in a timely manner, it loses its impact. Another comment, the analytics will help give the coach a better sense of, let's see, it's scrolling too fast. Now we're getting lots of comments. All right. Analytics will help give the coach a better sense of where they're putting their focus or their attention, and we can, if we're complimenting too much or not giving enough, that's great. Another comment, the coaching summary is awesome because the coach is able to attach resources. So certainly the coach within that huddle can attach resources that can be shared with the coachee. Jessica is saying, thank you for sharing that there is a time frame. and a timing tool, a way to set a timer so that we're filming just what we want. Another comment, sometimes we're too critical and don't give compliments. I think that's true, Dr. Gorey. If we don't need a lot of compliments, I think that it's true perhaps we're not great at or don't give a lot of compliments. Do you?
I agree with that, and that's why the SIBME analytics or using those custom marker tags can monitor how many positives that you're giving versus suggestions or critical feedback.
So we have a question for you. What are your non-negotiables for video coaching?
The time that we do 3 cycles, the self-reflection. Let me start from the beginning. Then what's non-negotiable is the teacher will do a self-reflection video, and I track that through the analytics. They don't have to share it with me, but I do track that it's been uploaded through the analytics. That we do 2 coaching cycles with a coach, a minimum of 2. One, the teacher sets the goals, and then the second one, the goal is set by the coach. 48 hours for feedback, that's a non-negotiable. And within 1 week, having that post-video conference. The pre-video conference is a non-negotiable for the first video as well. So those are things that every coach has to do here. And the teachers expect that those things are going to happen because we communicate our non-negotiables. We keep ourselves held accountable as well. We won't, if we say we're going to do it, we have to stick to it and do those things so that we help build that trust in this coaching process.
And that is so important, Dr. Gorey. That trust comes from predictability, from knowing that there are norms associated with this, and that there are non-negotiables associated with this, and that builds a sense of calm and a sense of trust as well.
I agree.
So we have one more comment in terms of what resonated. Paul says that video allows for clear evidence to address goals and acknowledge progress. And it just goes back to what Dr. Jim Knight talks about. We have to begin with reality, right? What is the reality of the situation? And video gives us a very clear picture of that. So on we go. We'd love for you to contact us at SIBME, whether you want to get more information, whether you'd like to schedule a demo, which typically I'm the person doing that. So I'd love to share a demonstration of the platform with you. So please feel free to contact us at SIBME. If there are any additional questions, please let us know. We do have a free 30-day trial, and we'd love to set you up with that trial and get you started using the platform. I think that you will find it to be of great value in assisting you with your coaching process and your coaching program. And finally, I want to thank Dr. Gorey for once again sharing your expertise with us, being our featured guest on these webinars. And I also want to thank the Principal Center for sponsoring and SIBME for sponsoring today's webinar. We look forward to seeing you in webinar 5 at the end of November. And Dr. Gorey, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. We will be sharing this. There will be a recording of this webinar available. We'll be sharing the link with you so that you can watch it again or share it with those that might want to see it. We'll see you next time.